Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Well, hello, folks. Again, Oregon Voters Digest. And I'll just jump right into it. Now, this is the second part of the show that we could not put on the first show. So this is number 2. From a community standpoint, we got the same guest hosts here with us today. There are 3 hosts here. I happen to be one, and Jim Spears is another, and then we got John
Leuenberger.
Boy, I tell you, and his dad was my buddy, and so now he's going to be around here for quite some time. He's in boot camp right now, so but it's good. And then we're in boot camp in another era, so to speak, and we need to bring that to the table. So in essence, we need to get together, both ends.
Yes.
So we're getting both ends.
Boot camp, all right.
So we were kind of like getting into the whole issue of this new form of government of ours, and then throwing some pieces out to the table that is not just totally politically from the standpoint they've already had that discussion when they put it together. We got to move on now. We've elected these folks, if you will, and we're paying for it. The public is paying for that at quite a bit of money, and a lot of seniors are being all of a sudden they can't make their house payments. No. They can't make their house payment, and here we are talking about, i.e., providing housing and home ownership for the homeless. Yep. Well, something is wrong with that picture aspect of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm caring about those individuals, but a lot of times, with all due respect, we're all in the same bucket.
Well, not only housing for homelessness, we're focusing on doing the same thing for people here illegally, shouldn't even be here. And
exactly.
The expense, and many of them are, or at least a number of them are criminals, and we're going to take care of them, and we're going to do so at the expense of people who, like you say, have been here, who now are having to make a dollar bill as big as a bed sheet.
Exactly.
And so trying
exactly.
to say, I can't afford to live, and but it's a doable alteration condition, but it's one that's going to take somebody or some groups of people to come in and say, we've heard all this before, this is really fascinating.
Yes.
I've heard it 40, 50 years, and what you're telling me is you got an idea, and what I'm going to do is replicate what has not worked for 50 years, and we're going to charge you 3 to 4 times as much. And how do you like me so far? I said, you're a fool.
That's right.
I mean, we need somebody to come in and say, you're not going to like what I have to say, but this is not working.
Well, supposedly, Jim, that's being done. We've gone through this new form of government. We've got we've districtized the whole city, right? Yeah. We've got 3 commissioners per district. These individuals are making $150,000 each, getting paid, and they're supposed to represent these districts.
Yeah.
And we've got some folks from the old government that's part of the process. And especially those 2 largest districts, because we got 2 districts that are going to be those individuals are going to be there for 2 years, and then we got 2 districts they're going to be there for 4 years each.
Yeah, so District 3 and 4 will be the 2-year terms, and then District 1 and 2, along with the mayor, will be for 4 years.
Right. So 1 and 2, when you think about 1 and 2, we've got 2 individuals that have had some experience, if you will, in government. Both Loretta Smith, and she's a really activist in her own arena, and then we had Dan Ryan. Dan Ryan, again from North Portland, and so we got some folks there, but they were the old government, and when you start thinking about how they were promoted, in fact, just recently in the Willamette Week, how they were promoted from the standpoint of saying there's going to be a chairperson for each district of the 3, and it's kind of interesting that District 1 was Loretta Smith. She's the most responsible entity, and Willamette Week identified her as a possibility. She may be the chairperson of the 3.
District, okay.
And the same thing for District number 2, where Dan Ryan is there, and they said that he might be it's a natural, because when you look at the background of both of those individuals, they expose them in terms of what their issues were, for instance.
Well, so explain to me the chairperson. What's
the chairperson? The chairperson, that deal was that since you're going to have 3 people per district, They're saying they're going to get someone to chair those three representatives among themselves,
Okay.
who then will communicate to the mayor
Okay.
and to the commissioners as a group. You see?
Will they take it as an opportunity to neglect the part of the district that they're chosen to represent, or are they going to be in the community doing their thing well?
That's the whole idea. See, so that was the other reason we talked about this possibility. They should go on and excuse the French, districtize the district, if you will, and make those folks responsible for a specific area. So divide the one district, let's say district number 1, into 3 parts. You got 3 commissioners. So each one would be responsible for that particular, their respective piece. Same thing for district number 2. See? So that means that person would have to knock on doors. They would have to be aware, and they have to live in the district, by the way.
Yeah.
See, they have to live in the district. See?
Now, are they going to actually live there, or are they just going to have an address that says?
No. Hey, we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching big time. In fact, we're going to hopefully get them to come on the show. If not that, I'm saying to them, get a show. We got community television. Each one of them could take advantage of this situation right here, this community television, and do a communication education piece to the community overall, which will save a lot of time and money, because by the time they get through identifying their respective issues and going through this, that, they still have to go to city council meeting, all 12. You got me? And then they have those discussions, and then the mayor's there to break the ties, so to speak, or whatever. But naturally, they're going to be coming and say, well, this is what my folks need, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And somebody's got to make a decision, just like Jim was talking about. Somebody's got to make that decision. So we're sort of like, do it.
I hope they do. I mean, they're getting paid quite a bit of taxpayer money to hold these positions and to make the city better, specifically their districts within the city. But we need to, they're under our microscope for the next year, 2, 3, 4, however long they're in. And if they're not doing actionable progress is not being made, we need to consider a recall.
Well, think about this now. Think about this. Under the old system, the folks who were pretty well running the whole shop, in all due respect, was the downtown folks, the business folks.
Yeah.
They were running the whole deal. It used to be the Chamber of Commerce. In fact, I used to know a guy named Frank Womack who was there. He was working there, and he was former Marine type. And I talked with him quite a bit. But he brought me to the table quite a bit, but they didn't like me. But the bottom line is that they were pretty well running the city council. They were putting the money to even the education piece, because even the education piece, they're not getting paid, but they have to run citywide. They don't have to run in a specific area to deal with those issues, right? So my point is, that's the old system. Now, under the new system, the way it's been marketing, and that's why we're talking the way we were talking now, the citizenry are going to be basically running. We're the employers. The folks who are paying the bill are the employers. The people who are elected to office are the employees.
Sorry.
And the folks, so I'm saying so many words, now that we're all frustrated, we're pissed off, we're ready to, but at the same time, you got a responsibility now. You got to make sure that you are who you are now.
Yeah.
That these folks are employees, and that's in lay terms.
Yeah, I think that's a microcosm of the whole republic.
Yeah.
Is the whole concept of a democracy and a republic is that we're electing these people not because they're smarter than us, not because they have more experience. We're electing them to take orders. We're in charge. We're here to say, here's what we want you to do, get it done.
Yes.
And don't come to me and say, well, I think that's not a very good idea because I know better. I'm going, I pay you too much money for it. If I wanted that type of information, I would have got someone else. But so you have to, I think, and it's probably a difficult situation for an elected official to be in, because they wear a different mantle, have a different hat, and they're going, well, we're perhaps know better than you do. And I said, well, That's not what a representative democracy is built upon. You're here to carry out orders and nothing else.
Well, the thought just came to mind. We talked on the last show about getting the youth more involved in the community.
Right. We're going to follow up on that.
And also, we've been talking about homelessness and the problem of homelessness in the city of Portland. One of the things that I really want to see from these counselors, and if they don't have any say in the public education system, then I think they should take a bigger step. Let's get these students a better education than what they're getting right now. I don't think the Portland Public Schools are ranked high in the school system in the state of Oregon, but they have some of the most attended schools within the state. I would love to see these councilmen really take not a back seat on this education, but drive the bus when it comes to education. These are the future leaders of our country, the future leaders of the city of Portland. They really need to step up and take a greater role in the education of these children. They're our future, as we always say, right? What are they doing? What is our city council doing to ensure that these students have a good education, or have the best opportunities for education?
Well, we already have something in place,
Okay.
if you will, as an organization. We have school boards.
Yeah.
The largest school district in the state of Oregon is Portland Public Schools.
Yeah.
And when you look at the makeup of it, aspect of it, it's supposed to be representative of those kids, within the city of Portland.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it from the standpoint of saying, well, how do you get folks motivated to be a school board member, if you will? You got my point? That means that if you don't have any money, okay, so we're paying, like I said, we're paying $150,000 each for these city commissioners.
And that's
We're
money that
paying
could be
nothing for the deal. So my point is that, and if let's say if we did the same thing with the Portland Public School District, districtize them for a change, because they got to run city. When they run for that board member, they got to run citywide. Who do you think controls?
Well, you have a huge bottleneck, a huge thing to overcome educationally.
Yes.
It's called teachers' unions.
Yes.
And they are control the outcome and the input, and it's not just Portland.
No, it's just all over.
It's the state of Oregon, for instance, for the last. Well, since the creation of the Federal Department of Education in 1979, which may be dissolved in the next administration.
presidency,
That's
yeah.
true. Yeah, that's true.
But you look at that, which came into pass in the last closing months of the Carter administration, and the quality, the academic activity of in the public sector has went down less and less and less. Every month after that. In the state of Oregon, we have the dubious distinction. It's a moving target, but it's close. And Portland mirrors that in part. That we have one of the highest involvement financially per capita per student of in the lower or in the 50 states, where we're in the top 2 or 3% of money we spend per capita per student.
That's right.
Conversely, every year, we're in the bottom 2 or 3% in the academics. So we're spending more and more money.
That's right.
Every year we get
That's
less
right.
and less
That's right.
performance.
That's right.
Teachers' unions will go, it's all for the children. It's all for the children. I'm going, all for the children. Now, I'm not a big fan of the United Nations, don't get me wrong. But in 1979, the United Nations determined that public education system in America was #1 on the globe. Number one. You know what it is today? Number 39, right behind Uganda. So they're going, but we pay more money per capita per student than we ever had. So who's responsible? How come, like I said, don't we need someone to step up and say, time out, that we can't keep doing this?
Well, we got to do it, and we have the opportunity because it's Portland, the largest city, the largest school district, and where do you think most of the money goes?
Yeah.
Portland.
Yeah.
And we still talking about the same darn issues. One, black kids ain't getting an education.
Dropouts.
Dropouts.
Well, and you see what the across the board, what with the impetus of the teachers' unions, who
Yeah.
totally agreed that you speak of blacks, kids of color. They 3 years ago dropped the requirements for if they're to get a diploma.
Exactly.
They no need
that's
to
right.
read, write, or count at grade level. So how is that helping people of color? Well, it's helping them go from high school to the county jail.
That's right.
Is that the idea?
Exactly.
Hey, well, that's a great idea if that's what you wanted, and but you're charging more and more money. But then you peek behind the covers here, and which I've done. Now I can't put a dollar amount on it because it's a moving target. You're going, well, what's the purpose behind of suspending these requirements, not for everybody, but with students of color?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know? Well, it's because the federal Department of Education allocates money for every diploma that's issued in the
Wow.
public sector in every state in the union. So if you've got 18% of students in Oregon, for instance, in Portland, the largest percentage are minorities
Yep.
who cannot read, write, or
Yep,
count.
yep, right.
They're going, well, we're getting $8,000 approximately per student to get a diploma, but these people, this is crazy. Give them all diplomas. I don't care if they can read or write or count. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on the table, and they'll go, but it's all for these students. I mean, what? And the irony to me is the Portland student council
Yep.
who voted this in,
Yep.
4 of the 5 members
Yep.
are black and Hispanic.
Yep.
So they're going, well,
right.
here's our constituents, here's our people. They don't need to read, write, or count.
Well, you made a good point in regards to the whole issue of the blacks and the Hispanics. Now, think about this. When did the whole issue of English as a second language came up?
Yeah.
If you start doing a little bit more of that research, it's the sanctuary city piece.
Oh yeah.
See, so now you got that entity in that piece aspect of it, and then the idea is that then you make it a black, like a black thing aspect of it, and then then it's all of a sudden it says, well, I don't want you messing with my kid, you know what I mean? It's racism and this, that, and other. So my point is that, wait a minute, something's wrong here. It should be education of all the kids.
Something's very
Yeah.
wrong. It's
Giving a prejudice.
And make sure that these kids, because otherwise, if they've been lacking in an education, I don't know who you are. If you've been lacking in education, and you got a more responsible parent, kids going to the same school, guess what happens? That responsible parent is going to make sure that that kid gets an education, and that person sitting right next to him is going to get the same.
Well,
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in the Lake Oswego School District, so, but my parents sacrificed a lot to put me through that school district because at the time, it was one of the top school districts in the state. And I highly valued my education from kindergarten to graduation, but that's the money was kind of there. The money was there, and they were putting forth an effort. 10 years later, my brother graduated from high school, and he was going to school through COVID, which had its whole other mess of problems.
Okay.
And it's different now. It's different. He didn't get the same education that I did when I was in school, and I think something needs to be looked at. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Where is the money going to? If the money is coming in, right, if we're getting federal funding for every diploma that we get, where is that money going?
Well, and if we are, not if, and again, it's a moving target. I
Yep.
don't know exactly because it changes every year how much money comes in, and where we rank for academic performance versus income per student. But invariably, we're at the very, very top of money we allocate for students in the lower 50, the top 2 or 3%. And at the same time, we're at the very bottom, year in and year out. And so to address that, I think part of the issues, and I don't have a 100% solution or answer, but and there's some variables that are maybe outside of our parameters, because some of these kids come from home environments that are tragic beyond words, and
kids across the board, very diverse.
Yeah.
All kids.
Doesn't matter.
There's no such color there. It's all kids.
All kids
they
have
come from,
all kids.
You give some of these, police and social workers that step in. They go, "This is just
tragic,
just tragic beyond words," and then conversely, you're seeing the move which the unions are resisting tongue-in-cheek towards charter schools or independent schools, and parents are going, well, we're spending this massive amount of money per capita per student, public education, which is failing based upon the other 50 states. Why can't I be, as a parent, why can't I can't allocate this money? I don't want my kid to go to this school. I want him to go to this other school. And,
or not just those schools, but what about homeschooling? Homeschooling is looked down upon, but
parochial schools, home schools, any of them, and the charter schools, which routinely their kids are academically far above the public schools, and they're doing so for half the price. But the unions are going, oh well, don't do that. Well, if I'm a parent, I'm going, why wouldn't I want what's better for my kid? I'm pissing away all this money, and I'm getting routinely not just 1 year, not 2 years. We're talking about decades of poor performance academically, and so people are coming to the recognition that, can't fine tune this. We can't take the word of the the governor about how things are. So routinely, it's so I just think that academically, it's we need somebody to come in, like I said, to say time out. This is not working. We need to take we did not find a shovel. We need to take like a snow shovel and turn this thing over.
Well, and that's kind of why I mentioned the city council. I understand that that's not their parameters, but maybe they should step up and do something about it, because the school systems aren't doing it.
Well, on that point that you just made, they just step up. That should have been discussed at the table before the new government.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That should have been on the table.
And that should have been expressed and shared with the paying public.
And they should need to ask the rhetorical question: is that, for one, do you agree or not agree?
Yes.
I mean, the statistical, the information is there. It's public. It's nothing esoteric.
They don't share it.
This isn't working. Do you agree or disagree? And then instead of going, well, I gotta do this, no.
Or I'll look into it. I'll make sure my office looks into it.
Yeah,
that's the answer they always give.
We'll get back to you.
But do it on this program.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Do it before us.
No, I don't want closed door meetings.
No closed door meeting. We don't need closed door.
I want it public record.
Right.
I want the city council to be talking about these issues.
That's right.
Yes, homelessness is a huge problem, but if we're working to educate children on the proper way that they need to be a part of society, we might end this homelessness problem.
Oh yeah, big time.
If we start educating the children and start giving them skills that they need to be in the workplace, we might end the homelessness problem.
No, we're adding to the homeless problem
right now. Yes, without being the education.
In fact, I'm reminded when I came here as a Marine recruiter, and I looked at the lay of the land. I've got so many bodies to get in on a monthly basis, and I'm trying to figure out where do I go. And next thing I know, I'm at JDH.
Oh yeah.
Here in the Portland area, and then I'm up here talking to the judges.
Okay.
And I'm talking. I just so happened that a guy by the name of Carter was basically the administrator that was assigning the kids to the various judges, and I knew him and he knew me, and he would call me up and said, Bruce, he said, Bruce, because I told him, I said, look, I'm not looking for anybody that shot somebody, and blah, 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 did those kinds of some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, he'd call me up and said, hey, Bruce, and then I'd go down there and I'd chat I'd see the records. And then actually, I befriended about 2 or 3 of the judges that I knew, and he basically said, "Okay, fine." So I'd go to court. You've seen the deal, and I'd sit up in the pews, and the judge said, "I understand you're thinking about getting in the Marine Corps or getting in the military across the board." I was a recruiter,
Yeah.
Because that's the way I deal with a kid. If it was a Navy, more I'd go that way. I'd go to the Air Force. If he was very articulate, whatever, I'd get him a college degree some way. But my point is that I provided that service, and I spoke, but I couldn't go to the boot camp with a lot of these folks. So consequently, I had to make sure that they would make it through the piece. You see, but my point. So my point is that I learned early on in the system what the system was about. And you go to the school district, and I'm sitting there looking. You go outside of Portland, you go to any of these other schools, major schools. They got ROTC, and I'm a product of ROTC and the product of Marine Corps, right? I go before the school board of Portland, and talked about, well, why don't we get Jefferson High School and Roosevelt and all those other folks, put ROTC in there. All these other schools have it. They're getting all kinds of getting education, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of pushback.
It doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
No, and they won't.
ridiculous.
Teachers' unions, I know from experience at Roosevelt recently that if you're a recruiter, they won't let you on the campus.
Yeah.
I'm going, well, you can help a lot of these kids by showing,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm a byproduct of Roosevelt, and I know the area and this and that, and there's some of these kids who that's a lifeline for them.
Sure it is.
And like you said, you don't have many times you don't have any idea what some of these home lives are like.
Oh,
no,
they're just
worse
just
now.
Tragic. Oh, God.
It's worse now. That's why look at the TikTok piece. That's a good example. If you really want to know what a kid looks like today, check it out,
yeah.
and then go home with them.
No, it's but the homelessness. I use the word we can end it, and John, I don't think so. You can't end it. You can modify it.
Yeah.
You can do things if you're never going to end homelessness. But the other thing that I've sound kind of cynical, tongue in cheek, is that part of the problem, I think, is that we look at homelessness as a problem. There are financial institutions and elected leaders who look at it as a tremendous business opportunity.
Oh, they do.
There's
Yes.
people who are sucking on this tip
Yep.
by the thousands.
Yes.
And they are
Yes.
making money hand over
Yes.
fist, and they have a vested interest
Yes.
in making these noise like we're going to build these little homes and we're going to do this and
Yeah.
we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And years ago, not that long ago, I was writing for a paper. I won't give the name here. And to compilation of looking into the root causes of homelessness.
Okay.
And a couple of things became self-evident. Is that it was primarily drug abuse, but they didn't want to name that because it didn't fit the narrative necessarily. But you had 80% of the people who were homeless who didn't want to go into a structured environment.
Right, exactly.
Didn't want to
No,
go. They're going. Are there going to be curfews, rules, regulations?
Yeah.
Can I do this? Can I use
Yeah.
drugs, cheap
Yeah.
wine? They said I'm not going.
Yeah.
You know what? And everybody I know is out in the street. It's not a bad life, but I think there's no 100% solution. But I mentioned this previously, maybe here or somewhere else. But I think part of the problem, and we're saying problem, but it's who's going to get rid of the cash cow when you're making an income on this.
That's true.
It's a business opportunity, but we want to change the vocabulary to make it sound better. But that you're probably too young. But you ever seen the movie Field of Dreams?
I've heard of it, and I haven't watched. It's on my list of long list of movies to
my
watch.
point is, you don't necessarily have to. Kevin Costner, and
Yep.
he's a guy. He's in a farmer in the Midwest somewhere, and he's got this big cornfield.
Yep.
And he has this vision and epiphany about turning his cornfield into
Baseball
a
field.
baseball field,
Right.
and that way he can resurrect players from the shoeless Joe Jackson and Babe
Right.
Ruth and this and
Yeah,
that.
right.
And his neighbors think he's crazy and going this and that, but he has a vision and epiphany of from a spiritual point of view, and the words come across to him. It says, "Build it, and they will come."
Yep.
And he won't say, okay. And in the movie, he bulldozes his corn, this and that, and he builds this beautiful baseball stadium, bleachers and everything. Everybody's going, this guy's completely nuts. Well, pretty soon, but out of the cornfield starts coming Babe Ruth, Shoeless Joe Jackson, these people from the past, and they're playing there, and these people are going, I can't believe, it's a bit of a stretch, but my point is that Oregon in general, Portland in particular, has the well-deserved national reputation of being one of the most forgiving, best places in the nation to be if you want to be homeless.
Yes.
And the drug abuse and everything. It's the best place to go.
Yep.
Well, when we advertise this to the nation, we tell them, build it and we'll come here.
And that's
We're
what
doing
we've
this
done.
for you.
Yep.
And with the paper I was writing for, we found they didn't want to. It's not too bad. That in excess, and it was more than this, but in excess of 82% of the homeless that we interviewed were not from you.
That's right.
They're going, why'd you come here?
No,
And they're
they got
going,
bussed here.
because this is a great place to
That's
be.
right, that's right.
The police have got orders not to harass us. We get free food. We get drug. We overdose, and people
Yep.
just pick us up, and it's
And that's
a-
happening now. That's
yeah,
real,
it's happening.
real world right
It's,
now.
it's worse now, but I'm referencing Kevin Costner in The Field of Dreams, where he said, "Build it and they will come." And we've got all these people going, "What do we do about this homeless crisis?"
Yeah.
Well, quit advertising.
Yeah.
It's the best place in the nation to come. And but
Well,
who
just
wants to do that?
To speak to that, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when I was on the show, but I lived in Salt Lake. And Salt Lake City, one of their papers, wrote an article about how they could pattern their the offerings of Salt Lake City similar to Portland, because Portland had the best way of treating the homeless. and it's like, but who asked for this?
Yeah, right.
Who asked for Salt Lake to be a sanctuary city for the homeless? No one did. But when I go back to Salt Lake and visit friends, there is a large homeless population that lives in the streets of Salt Lake City, and that's a little less forgiving than it is here. They get snow. It freezes out there. It's not a fun place to be during the winter.
No,
But
probably
you can
not.
come here and get all kinds of good. In fact, remember downtown Portland, for instance, right there in the front of the court system, they had a big bash. Remember that big bash? They had drugs and anything you wanted, anything you wanted, and all of the social agencies were providing the foods and tents and.
I think it's something that's resisted across the board, but I think it's a simple shuffling of the sentence, rearranging the verbs and the adjectives and what have you. But so many people reference homelessness as a problem. What we neglect to see is like the people who can address this do not see it as a problem, except publicly they'll say so in order to mollify their position. But
Exactly.
behind the scenes, they're going, "This is nuts. This is the best business. Think of it. There's no P&L requirement.
Exactly.
There's no critique of what you're doing. You don't. Nobody's. If you say that this isn't working, this is nuts, they're going to say, well, you're not a Christian, and or you're not compassionate, or you're not understanding, and just shut up and go away. And we're going to build our way out of this. I'm going, really? That's going to work? What, when 80% of the people you're building for are saying, to hell with you, I'm not going there.
Right,
There's
right.
rules and regulations.
Right, across the
Why
board.
you're spending your money on something that's we're telling you is not
right.
going to work.
That's right.
Well, going back to what Bruce said, I don't remember if it was the last episode or this episode, where they are our employees.
Yep.
So maybe we as citizenry need to step up and say, give me an accounting of where this money is going. Because yes, it is a big business for some of these people. Let's see where the money is going. Let's demand of our council people. Let's demand of our mayor. Let's demand of the county. Where are you putting this money? How is it benefiting the people? And get an actual accounting for where they're spending this money. And if they refuse to do that, then the democratic process starts all over again.
Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, accounting is one thing. I mean, there has to be something in the way of results, in the sense of, if this was a private industry. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, years ago. There's always been homeless. Christ references them for heaven's sakes. But when you were a kid, they were assigned the title of hobos.
Hobos.
And there were a couple of them. They rode the rails. They went back and forth. But we didn't get like this overnight. We didn't come to this posture. It's like
gradual.
You're looking at a morbidly obese 450-pound human going, well, you just didn't wake up, and this didn't happen last week. You went along this road for 30, 35 years. Every year going, I'm getting bigger and sicker, and here I am 30 years later, and look at this mess. Well, that's the analogy I'd use, is that this wasn't always this way, and so whatever we're doing or whatever we've done to incentivize it or combat it or what have you is not working. And I'm thinking, well, the reason in my caustic, cynical old military mind is that it's not meant to work. It's not meant to. We're not going to end homelessness. Why would we want to do that? It's a great business. It's a tremendous business. Look at the people who are employed on this thing, both directly and vicariously. And
look at the money spent.
Oh, it's done. But there's no accounting for it. If you were a business and you said, okay, here you're the CFO of the company, and you've got this much money in the quarter. Show me the results. Where'd it go? They go, well, we don't know where the money went. They're going, well, see the door over there? Get out. But in this case, there's nobody's held accountable.
Well, now they have that auditor, so hopefully that auditor will start looking into it.
That won't happen.
No, well, that's why we need to.
They've always had an auditor.
Okay.
No, it's
If you notice, only one person ran.
That's a problem.
Well, and it's just, you kind of bastardize the English language, and in order to, we don't call it, it's not homelessness now, we call them houseless.
Yes.
That's supposed to make things better. How in the world, and what group of bureaucratic geniuses came up with that? And how much money did it cost them? They sat around for 8 weeks going, here's a way and this'll make it easier for Bruce and John and Jim to accept that they're no longer houseless.
That's right.
They're homeless. They're houseless, and it's you can't find words for the I mean, for heaven's sakes, we're to the point where out of our lips, everybody will say the words, well, they're campers. It's really campers. Doesn't that make you, what is that, hot dogs, marshmallows, out with the kids having a good time? Or they're out having a camping spree. No, they're out field stripping my car they just stole.
Exactly.
Cutting your catalytic converter out.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting there, I'm listening. I'm doing both, so to speak. I've been, from a historical standpoint, I've had these same conversations. Jim, I know he had for sure. We've had these your father. We were having these same conversations and solutions years back, okay, and here we sit today. Sure, I might have a few years back now that I've got to deal with, you know what I mean. But to me, in my mindset, it's ageless, with me. And so I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, the solution is sitting there. I mean, wait a minute, what happens when there's a? Now, I've said this many times over. I said, what happens if there's a earthquake or a fire disaster or whatever? What would happen? The governor normally activates the guard. The guard goes by and picks them all up and take them to a designated area and provide everything and vet them out, find out what the problems are, etc., what the issue is, and then disperse them. All of a sudden, you don't see them anymore. I mean, people are back in their various environment. But my point is that I was just thinking about the concept, how they reacted to that whole piece and put that whole piece together, and it worked for years. But when you talk about it, when you talk about it, that's kind of like where I'm at in many ways. Cause I run for office every 2 years, you know, and that's they ring up my resume, my background, and say,
we don't want
Bruce is not a guy we can talk to. We don't want him here. This aspect of it, and I'm sitting there saying it the same way. I said, hey, you want to solve the problem in downtown Portland? You know, fuck, you still don't know how many numbers you're talking about, but I know how much money you're spending. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, you know, I worry. So yes, we have an emergency, a natural disaster, right? They round them all up. They get their skill sets. I think Jim said it. None of the homeless want to work.
No. This is what I'm saying. When you have the disaster, it's not an issue as to whether or not you get in the truck or not.
Well,
you get in the truck.
The problem, there's that word. I think that we're, with regard to the homeless, is again that when 82%, 85% of them don't want the help, they don't want it.
Yeah.
But we live in a representative democracy where we have common law, and my point is that we have that pesky document called the Constitution.
Ever
heard
true.
of it? A beautiful
I'm
document.
agreeing with you.
And so you can't go to a homeless camp and say, get out, you know, or we put a gun to your head and say you're going to go live here. They're going, I can live anywhere I want. You can't force me to go into a home. You can't tell me to stop shooting up heroin. You can't tell me to stop screwing my neighbor's dog. You can't do any of these things because I've got the Article 4 of the Constitution against excessive search and seizure, and there's all kinds of other things, but they have the protections that are going to prevent that, unless you declare martial law type of thing that suspends the Constitution,
and then you got another
which we did. Franklin Roosevelt did during the Second World War. They rounded up all the Japanese. Who's going to be on board with that? Who's going to say it's nobody? So here's what's going to happen, John. We're just going to keep pretending. Let's make a bunch of noise and say we're going to do this different. I know. We'll raise your taxes and we'll build more little houses. We'll build our way out of this. You go, no, you won't. The people you're saying you're going to build for are saying, screw you. I don't want to go there. We're not going to go. So why are you wasting your money on that? I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of people making money at this. And who's going to take issue with something that I'm compassionate. I want to help the homeless, the drug addicts. I want to get them into treatment. I want to get them, a place to live. And they're going, I don't want to be in treatment. You can't make me go to treatment. You know, you can get a sentencing judge like you do if this is your third DUI, and you go before the sentencing judge, and he says, "Okay, Bruce, John, here's a choice. You can go to county jail for 8 months, or you go into treatment for 6 weeks. What do you want to do?" Well, look at the time. I'll take that treatment thing.
That's right.
But my point is, it's coerced, and so you go into a treatment center with a bunch of other drunks. None of you want to be there.
That's right.
The judge is saying you better be here,
right.
or else you're going to the county jail.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not unlike, the 400-pound grossly obese man who the doctor says, hey, you better lose some weight. We're going to cut out your intestines and your stomach because you can't control your own eating. You're going, I don't want to do that. But the doctor says, well, you better. You're going to die. So, but you wouldn't voluntarily do it. And the same with the judge, I think, or people who are homelessness. I think if I were homeless, if you're on the street for 3-4 months and everybody is on the street, it's not a bad life here in Portland. It's true. It's everybody I know, and I don't have to worry about food. I get fed. I get shelter. I can go. I get free clothes. I mean, I have a friend. She's not there currently, but who said, you ever been to the big Goodwill here in Southeast? We've got homeless that come in every day there, and they come in, they're all disheveled, or if it's raining or it's nasty and they're dirty and they're this. Well, you can only get one set of clothes at a time. You can't, and you go into the stall and change your clothes. You can't go in because they'll steal a bunch of it. So the homeless will go in and go, I haven't change clothes in a week, and I'm all dirty, I'm nasty, and everything, and I'm cold and I'm wet. I'm going to go pick out all these nice, clean clothes, go into the stall there, change clothes, come out,
drop the
freshes
stuff,
it,
yep,
and
just
leave
throw
the
the
stuff,
stuff
leave
there,
it there, and walk out the door,
yep.
and it's perfectly legal. They can't
Yep.
stop them.
Yep.
So they've got, if you want, you got a new set of clothes every day.
Yep.
You can go in there,
Yep.
and you can't do anything. And so, what are we saying? I mean, we have to stop saying this is we're trying to address a problem. I think we need to recognize that people are doing this for a business, and you're not going to build our way out of homelessness. And you can have compassion, as we should, from a Christian point of view or otherwise, for these people. But on the other hand, statistically and otherwise, the approach we're taking is one that the people you're allegedly going to help are going, we're not going to do that. What's the matter with you people? Keep your wallet in your pants, for heaven's sakes. Or I better backtrack there for Bruce. Keep your wallet in your trousers.
Oh no, you're doing well.
But and I don't have any answers. Don't get me wrong. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and point fingers, but I do think that the premise for addressing the issue, I'm not saying the problem, the issue is by first off identifying it for what it is, and we identify it as a problem for consumer consumption purposes, but in reality, the people who have the purse strings and who can allocate the massive and increasing every year of taxpayer money that goes to it, they're not looking at this as a problem. They're going, wink, wink. Let's say it's a problem, and oh, by the way, we got to go down to Jake's Crawfish and get some real food, and it's not a problem. It's a great business opportunity.
Big business.
Yes,
and the public is paying.
And it's unlike any business out there, private business, where there's no accountability. There's no P&L requirement. There's no bottom line. There's no shareholders. There's no holders. Nobody who's got stocks and bonds and what have you in your business who's going to hold you on the line, because all they'll do is saying, we're it's getting better. The homelessness problem is getting better.
Yep.
They're going, well, then don't ask me how or why. I got to go now. No, it's not. It reminds me a little bit of the recent, just kind of tongue-in-cheek national elections where he had that poor old Kamala out there going every 2 or 3 times a week, just saying the word. It's getting better. It's Obamonomics. Obamonomics. Obama. The people are looking at her going, well, wait a minute. It's the reverse. It's and then they can't figure out why she lost the election. But in this case, it's with the homelessness. We didn't get this way. It wasn't this way 50 years ago. This is a self-inflicted wound. We've done it to ourselves, and the reason we're doing it and replicating it is because along the way, there's the human carnage and tragedy, but there's people who are making a massive amount of money, and they don't want to change it. No way. In no way.
There's no money in it.
No.
Well, my friends, where do we go from here?
Well, I don't know.
I'm still throwing it on the table because that's what they need to see. That's what they need to hear.
I honestly think we need to hold the council accountable for what their actions are. We need to see actionable change. We need to see, they have to stop giving us lip service and start actually doing something.
But you've got to demand it.
Yes, that's our job as citizens.
Yes, citizens.
We demand it from the people we're employing.
You got to demand the situation.
And the only way you can do that is through a meritocracy situation. Is like it's one thing to say we demand actions and this and that, but you've got to have parameters to say, this is point A, point B, and we need to be able to
that's the other issue.
to actually point to those, and not just subjectively and say it's working. We need to say that we started at point A, part B, and what have we done, and what are we trying to do? But it's like playing pin the tail on the donkey, because there's no accounting, and because there's no goals that have been set. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if you're in a business and you have action steps that you're hoping to attain in a given business quarter, for instance. At the end of the quarter, you sit down as a group and go, here's the money we spent, here's what we said we were going to do, how are we doing?
So one of the things that I think that people should do from the City of Portland standpoint, from any local government standpoint, go to your city council meetings, go participate, go talk to who's representing you. If you're not doing that, and we're just going to continue to let the people in charge do what they're going to do, then nothing's going to change. But if we start going and participating in our local governments and we start demanding results from them, go every single meeting if you can, or get a group of your friends together, go say, I'll go to this meeting, you go to this meeting, and you just ask the same questions over and over and over again and start being a nuisance to these people. I think we can actually see some change.
I'm gonna be a little counter to that.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, see, that's the old way.
Yeah.
The new way. There's a meeting every Saturday night or something at the community center.
Okay.
The elected official that we hired will be chairing that committee.
Okay.
The elected the person will make sure they communicate what issue we're going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to make sure that they're going to make, the other thing is that they will be announcing it to the representation, to the employers.
Okay.
That's the meeting, not the other way from San Paul, where they've got to go and they've got the present system right now. They're sitting all around there basically talking. You got 3 seconds to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Say 3 minutes, but 3 seconds. And these are not professional speakers. You get my point?
Right.
See, so the name of the game, you cut that stuff out. It should have been just the opposite, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, have you ever gone to these county meetings? Or city
No,
meetings?
I haven't.
You go to these county meetings and city, it's insulting. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're there. By the time you give up your name and your address and this, that, and the other, somebody's ringing the green lights, the yellow light, the red lights. It's frustrating.
Well, so then what? I mean, in order to get these community meetings that you're asking for, you got to go to the council meetings first.
No.
Are they doing them already?
No. That's the demand right up front. That's what we're doing now.
Okay. Well, we're demanding that you hold these meetings for us.
That's right. They've got to change that criteria. It's not about the employees coming, basically the employers having to go to the employees. No, it's the employees coming to the employer telling us exactly what you've done and what you need to do.
I would love to see that happen.
Okay, well, that's what we're talking about. And hopefully it's going to help this new form of government. We're trying to, and as Jim was saying, we're not trying to blame anybody. My point, we're looking for someone we got to champion some kind of an idea to make this thing. Everybody's frustrated.
Well, and I think you need to reduce it to such simple common denominators.
Yeah.
We have to, as a group, I don't care what district you're from or where
Yeah.
you're at, because they all share enough of the issues at hand collectively to understand it. We have to hire and promote people that say, whatever we've done isn't working. So. And we don't need incremental change. We need draconian change.
Yes.
And people are not going to like it, but the alternative is to just keep doing what we're doing.
Better do it quick.
And what we'll just keep doing is coming back to taxpayers every year, every 2 years, and say we need more money. None of what we're doing is working,
Okay.
but the reason it's not working is we don't have enough money. All we need is more money, more money, more money.
And
it'll all
more
work.
people are getting on the list of homeless.
Oh, yeah.
They're losing their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the private sector is buying them as a group. And then basically renting them out and going to government to pay the goddamn rent. No.
Well, there's that word, I was kind of a passing student of the English language. I mean, Shakespeare's safe, don't get me wrong, but I get a lot of stuff published, but there's some words that I think are misused. One is subsidies, because that's just makes it softer.
Justifiable,
And
yeah.
if you're looking at election activity, for instance, let's float a bond measure, because we don't want to tell John or Bruce that this is really a tax, but because we can say it's a bond, because bonds expire, don't they? When's the last one you saw expire? They roll over after another. So let's call it a bond, because they won't, we'll pull the wool over their eyes. And let's call these homeless people who are stealing our cars and our drug addicts, let's call them houseless, and let's call them campers.
There you go.
And that's that way that can signify them. And let's tackle the problem as going, this is a crisis, and the three of us are gonna manage a crisis. Because what's in a word, that makes everyone go, oh, crisis. That's and by the way, I'm an expert, and so therefore, but it just scares me because something close. It's not over. I don't know if it's ever over, but going back a few years to the height of the COVID crisis, well, we had legions of quote unquote experts. What channel you wanted to go to? Who were saying, here's what you need to do. I'm an expert. You need to get a shot. You need to get boosters. You need to wear different masks. You need to 6 feet. You need to stay out of school. You need to do all these things. But I'm an expert, and I've got all these other experts that will validate my position. And but then I go home. I can just automatically change the channel, see something else on there. Oh, there's another expert, and he's got all kinds of other experts behind him. He's saying, that's a lot of BS. You don't need to do any of those things, And I can validate that. I've got different countries. I've got Sweden. I've got Finland. I've got others that are going. They're not keeping their kids out of school and none of that stuff. And so, my point is that the words scare me. I'm an expert. And said you could find any expert you want during COVID, and that's true. When it comes to homelessness, houselessness, there's legions of experts out there, and they're getting paid a fortune. And but reduced to the common cynical point of view now is it with regard to COVID or houselessness or anything, which expert do you want to listen to? Which one do you want to attach yourself to? Well, figure out which pharmaceutical firm is paying their bills, and then you'll find out who that expert is.
That's right.
And
follow the money.
Yeah.
So is that.
Well, who's paying this expert? I'm a housing expert. I took Urban Studies 101 at Portland State University, and I took gender studies too. So I know what's a male or female, and I know all these things. I'm an expert. I go, oh, I'm an expert. So, and like the word free, buy two, get one free.
Yeah, right.
Wait a minute.
There's nothing free.
Wait a minute. But, I'm a progressive Democrat, and I'm telling John, isn't the root word for progressive progress?
Yeah.
So I look around me. I'm looking at homelessness expanding exponentially. Crime rates going up, stealing cars going up. But I'm an expert.
Expert.
Yeah.
Okay, we got about 30 seconds left, and guess what? We've done a series of 2 shows, and I think that's enough right now at this point in time for the folks. Hopefully, you will share these shows with some of your friends and your neighbors and whatever, and discuss it. And then call up the commercial media folks, and let them know, let them see the show. And then you can have a discussion as a result of that aspect of it, you see. So anyway, we will go on, and we're going to have to go on and take a break now. Let you rest up a bit, and you've eaten your turkey, now you're ready for Christmas. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
We're done. We're off the record. I was scared. We always see